love movies. They're probably my favorite way to escape my life and dive into another one, getting the excitement of all the aspects of that movie without it actually affecting my real life. And even though most movies are fun and entertaining to the audience, there are some movies that are pretty problematic, with old movies either not being up to modern standards, or with more current movies just having controversial undertones that raise some eyebrows. What's up everyone, I'm Mackenzie Smith, you're watching InformOverload, and let's just get into the top 10 most problematic movies. In at number 10, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell was the highly anticipated remake, and had a $110 million production value. But the film was hit hard when a whitewashing controversy was revealed, with Scarlett Johansson getting called out for playing the part of an actress who is traditionally Japanese in the original manga and anime series that the film was based on. As a response to this, the production and Johansson tried to play it off, saying it didn't matter what race the character was, as the character was a cyborg and didn't even have an ethnicity. But a lot of people did not buy this excuse, and this film is one of the most highly talked about examples of whitewashing in Hollywood today. And at number 9, The Interview. The Interview was marketed as a spoof comedy starring the lovable goofballs Seth Rogen and James Franco. And when people went to watch this film, they expected it to be very similar to the other films they had both starred in. But this one was a bit different, as the premise of the film was the fact that the two men were preparing to have an interview with one of the most controversial politicians of all time, Kim Jong-un. And the majority of the hate for the film came from the fact that they portrayed the dictator in somewhat of a positive light, showing him as a misunderstood Katy Perry loving soul who actually bonds with the two men. The movie was also a huge hassle to the film companies, as the group called the Guardians of Peace hacked Sony and threatened to carry out an attack if the film was released. The company ended up giving in to the demands somewhat and decided to not release it in theaters but rather digitally, which also cost them a ton of money in lost revenue. In at number 8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was touted as a love letter to Hollywood and the film industry, but there were some issues with it that got Tarantino, who was the writer and director, some heat. Firstly was the fact that the movie is filled with regressive themes, about two middle-aged men from the past talking about how that was the golden age of Hollywood, making it seem like everything about that time was better. Also, we got some heat for its controversial portrayal of Bruce Lee, one of the rare Asian stars in Hollywood, then also openly portraying racist things that were okay in the past, seemingly using that as an excuse to put them in the film. In at number 7, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The problems with this one are mainly because of the disrespectful portrayal of other cultures in the movie. In the movie, Indiana faces off with a Hindu This group makes sacrifices with other people, as well as eats things that people in the Western world find gross, like snakes, spiders, and monkey brain soup. But considering different cultures eat different things in this world based on what's most common in that region, it's disrespectful to call another culture's food gross. As well, the movie disrespected the Hindu religion, as it depicted Kali as a goddess of the underworld, when she's actually the goddess of empowerment. This and other things got the movie banned in India. And lastly, there are major white savior themes running through the whole movie, like they couldn't have done it without it. And at number 6, White Chicks. I'm sure just by hearing the title of this one, you already have an idea of what this one's gonna be about. This movie is pretty much as problematic now as it was back then, with the Wayans brothers playing FBI agents who were meant to watch over two socialites as they are key witnesses in a trial. But when the women get cuts on their faces and refuse to go, the men come up with a creative plan and dress up as the girls, and obviously portraying various stereotypes of both white and black people throughout the whole movie. Halfway, number 5, Grease. Grease is a tale of two star-crossed lovers most people can't help but love. And the way a lot of people think about it is that Sandy was liberated from her old ways and got in touch with who she really was when she meets Danny. However, there are definitely some questionable undertones in the movie, with Sandy basically changing everything about herself in order to get and keep the guy. And obviously changing your whole identity for a man is never a good idea and just never ever works out. Do not do it, people. And at number 4 is 16 Candles. This one is honestly really bad, and I kind of forgot about it until I was looking for this video. And basically it casualizes men taking advantage of women. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I have to keep it, pretty vague. We're on YouTube here. But in the movie, there's an interaction between Ted and Jake at a party, when Jake tells Ted how he has Caroline in the bedroom and she's passed out, to talk about how he could do whatever he wanted to her. Then Jake ends up taking her home. In the morning when she doesn't remember, it leaves you feeling just really icky because you know pretty well what probably happened. Then there's also the stereotypical portrayal of an East Asian character, an exchange student Long Duck Dong, that was also uncomfortable to watch. In at number 3, The Love Guru. This is another one that's pretty obvious, but I'll break it down anyways. Mike Myers plays Maurice Pitka, an American man who was orphaned as a child in India and was raised by gurus. So he portrays a lot of stereotypical aspects of the Indian gurus in the film. And practically the whole movie is just making fun of Indian people as well as being a guru. And honestly, the whole movie in general is just pretty cringy, and it's like not even funny in the slightest, just a bad movie all around. In at number 2, Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder is constantly at the center of controversy because of Robert Downey Jr.'s controversial portrayal of a black character, well, in blackface. The film was full of satire and was meant to be a spoof type film. In the movie, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Kirk Lazarus, is an Australian method actor who undergoes pigmentation alteration surgery to darken his skin in order to play a black character in a war movie. The fact that Downey Jr. has black skin and features practically the whole movie has been a controversial topic since the movie was released years ago. Downey Jr. looked back at the casting while promoting Doolittle on a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, with him telling Joe Rogan that his mother was horrified and had a bad feeling about him doing the film. Well, Downey Jr. even saying himself that he had a lot of reservations about the film, then continuing that even though he was unsure about doing it, he knew his heart was in the right place, then adding, quote, "And 90% of my black friends were like, dude, that was great. I can't disagree with the other 10%, but I know where my heart lies. I think that it's never an excuse to do something that's out of place and it's out of its time, but to me it's blasted the cap on the issue. I think having a moral psychology is job one. Sometimes you just gotta go, yeah, I effed up. In my defense, Tropic Thunder is about how wrong blackface is, so I take exception." And even crazier, Downey Jr. actually received critical acclaim for his performance in Tropic Thunder. It was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars, Golden Globes, and Screen Actors Guild Awards, but ended up losing all 3 of those to Heath Ledger. In at number 1, The Passion of the Christ. Any movie about religion is bound to be controversial in some way, because it's incredibly hard to get everything right. But the Mel Gibson film is maybe one of the most hated out there. The main problems with the film are the potential negative bias towards Jewish people, a lack of biblical accuracy, and excessive violence. And the violence in this film is just completely unnecessary. And it seemed like the gore was trying to be used instead of just like developing a compelling and accurate storyline, with people saying that they would have been fine with it if it was just less violent. Also, people had a lot of problems with the fact that Mel Gibson was in the film in general because of his controversial past. Alright everyone, that's all for the list today. Let me know what you think about it down below. And let me know if there are any movies that I missed that, could have been on this list or maybe could be in a part 2. And as always, before I head out, I'm going to shout out some comments from celebs that are not on social media. Seth freaking Roland said, "They are wise. Social media can be the cesspool of negativity and toxicity sometimes." Yeah, I feel like a lot of times it can be those things. It's turning real negative real fast. Then Why Do I Exist said in reference to Mila Kunis, "Don't shut up, Meg. In fact, keep talking." Good reference there. Yeah, she played Meg on Family Guy, you guys don't get that one. And then Rocio said, "I feel like at some point everyone should just stay away from social media for a while. It must be good for the soul." I definitely can believe that. I feel like if social media wasn't like a part of my job, I would definitely try and be on it a lot less. But I think just taking breaks is a really good thing to do. Then Orphea said, "Hi for Jennifer Garner, it's wrong. She's on Instagram and she's very active, almost posting daily." So that was a big miss on my part. I swear I checked everyone before I made the video, but I guess she maybe kind of slipped through the cracks. But thank you so much for pointing that out in a nice way. Appreciate when it's done nicely. Alright everyone, that's all for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way here, I really appreciate it. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram to be kept up to date with all the news and till you'll ever need to know. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.